Welcome back. Another edition of Talon Talk. It's actually our first our first go around with somebody two times. Bryan Baker was on last year in 2020 and now again in 2021. Some big news to share. Had an MLB call up for the Toronto Blue Jays. Thanks for being on, Bryan.
Absolutely, anytime.
Yeah, so our first talk, we really got into the weeds in minor league baseball, kind of some of those adventures up there in AA, AAA, and everything. But you had a pretty momentous day, September 5th this year. Getting called up. What was that day like? We'll get into kind of the details of leading up to that, but what was that day like specifically?
It was a roller coaster, I guess you could say. It was not something I was super ready for, I guess. Well, I thought I was ready for it, but you never really ready for it until it actually happens. So, yeah, it was definitely the craziest day, probably the craziest day of my life, but in a good way. So it was, yeah, it was awesome. It's truly a blessing to be able to experience all that, and it was something I hope everybody gets to experience something like that. It was truly crazy.
So, I mean, your numbers were amazing in AAA this year. Strikeout numbers, strikeout to walk ratio, ERA, wins loss record. Did you ever have a feeling of doubt though that was I going to get a call up this year? Obviously things changed in September for ball clubs and they can expand their rosters, but was there any, were there highs and lows for you in that regard?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's hard for that stuff not to creep in a little bit, where you're just trying to like prove yourself and hopefully somebody's noticing. But yeah, I think I mean, we just had such a good team in AAA and in the big leagues, that just being considered to be called up in that spot is something that's not a small deal at all. It's kind of it's it's really hard to do. So I really didn't know what to expect. I was really just trying to go out there and keep putting up zeros. That's really all I was focused on, especially with like the beginning of the year, like coming into spring training. I tweaked my elbow a little bit, so I was shut down for a lot of spring training, and then kind of came back right in time for us to go to AAA in May. So I guess it was kind of a good thing in a way, because I was more so just worried about staying healthy and just going out there and throwing up a zero, more so than worrying about, I need to do this, do that to get called up or any of that stuff. So it was kind of nice in the sense that I was kind of tunnel visioned, where I really didn't let any of that other stuff kind of get in the way, I feel like.
So for you, being a pitcher, your elbow injury, kind of the apprehension right there. Was there anything that you did differently coming off of that little tweak right there that ended up impacting your pitching?
Yeah, I think overall I just kind of honestly pumped the brakes on a lot of my workload and just like throwing in general. Kind of restructured a little bit of the way that I was recovering and the way that I would, like, how many throws per day, just stuff like just simple stuff that really just kind of made it easier on my arm. So once I got it strengthened back up, coming off the injury, I kind of stuck to the routine that some of the guys with the Blue Jays helped me kind of construct. So it really worked out pretty well. I think, I mean, no matter what, you're going to go through times where you're pretty sore or hanging throughout the season, especially with 140 games. But overall, like this year, I mean, after the first injury, I think it worked out pretty well. I felt pretty good the whole year, so I was super thankful for the help on that front, and it's kind of something I can carry with me. Just making sure I'm managing that workload and recovering properly. So it's hard enough as it is. So that was pretty awesome on that front this year.
So 11 saves really were a big piece of the Buffalo's success. And the bullpen, like you mentioned, Toronto had a really big run there at the end and a chance to make the playoffs. For you as a pitcher, how have you felt your maturity has evolved, handling those high pressure situations? Obviously, for at UNF, we a starting pitcher, you obviously had the potential and the stuff to close the door either, but now you have a different role. How's your maturity evolved as a pitcher?
I think it's come a long way. I think, well, especially like when you're thrown into those close games at the end of the game, I think It's easy to get caught up in the moment and kind of, get out of your routine and your like what you're trying to do. So it's been nice to get reps in those scenarios. Like mainly, I mean, starting all the way back in high A. So when I started kind of closing out games here and there, and then it's been more and more so each level going up. Yeah, it's I've come a long way in terms of, not letting the moment get to me and kind of just sticking to my stuff, and then really just mixing up a lot more. I used to be way more fastball reliant, but I think a big step this year was being able to throw 3 pitches in the zone at any time, and like making sure the hitters are off balance. I think that kind of is what really helped me take that next step, and helped out a lot this year for sure.
Throwing off speed pitches for strikes is it's always it's a weird balance, because you want to have as much bite on that curveball that you can, but you do want to get it over. Is there any pitching coaches or any philosophies or mechanical things that you've done to try to be able to rely on those pitches and pitch backwards if you need to?
Yeah, well, I think I've always had a pretty decent feel for a changeup, which is kind of rare for a reliever these days, especially a righty reliever. It's a lot of the fastball slider guys. So it's nice to have that extra weapon, and really just getting back to trusting it and throwing that, especially late in counts when they're not really expecting it. But that also my slider came a long way this year, and I really never had that good of a slider. I've been tweaking the grips for years, and found more of like a cutter grip this year that allowed me to throw it in the zone, even if it wasn't like moving a lot. At least it was in the zone, and just barely missed their barrel or whatever, or they even take it. So it kind of started out as a smaller little cutter this year, just based off the grip, and then I kind of just, the more I threw it, the more I got comfortable with it, and kind of morphed more into an actual slider. So, but still maintain that control of it. Honestly, if you looked at my numbers, I threw more strikes with my, like percentage wise, with my slider than my other 2 pitches. So it's I was pretty mind blowing going into the year with that third best pitch, but it worked out pretty well, I guess. I attribute a lot of that to finding that, and that's, like I said, just add that third pitch that's in their mind where they don't really know what's coming. So it definitely helped out a lot this year.
Is that a flat ground thing? Is that a reps thing? Is that just, attention to detail when you do have bullpens? How does a pitcher develop that?
I think it starts with the grip. Like I said, like I tried a million different slider grips, and they always end up like a curveball. It always ended up like popping out of my hand. So I just tried the cutter grip, and that just, it felt right from the beginning. And then it was just easier once I got more and more reps. Like you said, just like throwing program, and then any chance I got, throw like a bullpen or a flat ground or whatever. Just the reps, honestly. Like most people say, it takes like 2 full years to actually like learn a pitch and add it to your repertoire. So yeah, more reps the better, and it helped out a lot. Just sticking with that, instead of, because it's easy to find a grip, and then it works for like a week, and then you lose it, and you're like, oh, should I try a different grip? I ended up sticking with it, so I think I'll probably stick with it still, if it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, grips are a weird thing, because I'm sure you've got everybody on the staff that you pitched with alongside. You're just sitting in a bullpen, or you're sitting in the dugout, and you kind of have an idea that comes to you, and you're holding the ball a certain way, and you're like, it's like you got to write a note down, just that this feels right. Or a lot of times it's with the changeup grip, the 3-finger, the circle, or the palm, or whatever it is.
Exactly.
It's one of the fun parts of pitching, I'm sure, that you can attest to. And I mean, I'm sure at times it can be nerve-wracking the further you get in baseball, trying to introduce something new, because you have more and more people and more eyes on you saying, do this or don't do this.
Exactly. Yeah. It's hard to like, you don't want to really try out a new grip like in a game, especially if you're thrown into like the 9th inning and you're up by 1 run. You're like, oh, I'm not gonna try anything crazy right now.
Yeah, that's when you go with your bread and butter, and that's when you try to, if you got that the high cheese, you're just gonna try to gas them up, a little bit extra. You guys got some flamethrowers. It's always fun to watch Romano pitch. especially for him being a local guy for Toronto. It's always cool, the
Yeah.
crowd to get behind him,
Yeah.
um, and whatnot. So you get called up. I saw that video of the call up, the big excitement. What I guess a lot of people would ask, what's really the first thing that a player does when they get called up and they get the news? Like, what is the first thing you do?
Well, typically you're called into the AAA manager's office, and they, well, with the rest of the coaching staff in there, and they let you know, and then you're in shock, and then you're trying to find words to say, and you can't. So you just, I was just like telling everybody thank you, and then like I was on my way to go out of the office and call my parents, because that's like the first thing you're supposed to do. And but the whole team was sitting there waiting. I guess they had seen me like walk into the office and like put two and two together or whatever. So the whole team was like waiting and celebrated as soon as I came out of the door. So then I was emotional and speechless again. And everybody congratulated me or whatever. It was awesome. So hugged everybody, and then made my way outside, called my parents, texted my buddies, and as many people as I could think of, even though it was kind of late at night. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to wake up everybody or what. So that was kind of tough. But yeah, I've called my parents. It was probably 10 or 10:30 Central Time, which is where they live, which I knew they had been asleep. So I was like, please just wake up and answer the phone. But yeah, that's and then just trying to go to sleep, to get ready for the next day was pretty tough. I probably got an hour or two of sleep. So it was pretty fun.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you've envisioned that moment many, 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 many times before even getting drafted. Probably at UNF and before UNF. Did the emotions kind of match what your vision of that moment would be?
Yeah, 100%. It was, yeah, you really don't know what to expect at all. Like even having gone through it in my mind, over and over again, just that I'm wanting that to happen for as long as I can remember playing baseball. But yeah, it was more like, it was just like looking back on all the years I've been playing and working hard and sacrificing, and then realizing like in that moment it was all worth it. So it was crazy. Just that realization is like, it's like overwhelming joy and relief at the same time, and also at the same time it's like we got to keep going. So
yeah,
it's crazy.
I mean, and that's the hard part is, you have that great moment, but then you get called up and you're playing the A's, you're playing a big league team, and all these guys, they've been around the block a million times, and it's that come down that you almost have to force yourself into, I'm sure, where it's like, you got Vladdy Jr. hitting 45 bombs, and he's just like, whatever at this point with being there, because he's just used to it, and you've got to come into that headspace too. So, I mean, that's it. I've always just been super curious, like, what is it, and that leads me into my next question. Like, what did your phone look like when you got called up and the news got around? Like, I'm sure, like, did you have like 500 text messages, or what happened?
Yeah, it's probably something. Yeah, probably something close to that. Actually, I mean, everybody that I've played with all through the years. I mean, going from, Little League, honestly, all the way through high school, college. I was with a different I was with the Rockies. So all the people I played with the Rockies, and then all the people with the Blue Jays, and childhood friends, all this stuff. So yeah, you're probably right with that number in that ballpark. I mean, between social media stuff too, it was like, I'm trying to be nice and get back to everybody and say thank you, but it's like I also got to get ready and pitch in a big league game tonight, possibly. So yeah, it was wild. But I mean, the next day we had like a 5 a.m. car service. I got called up at the same time as my buddy Nate Pearson, who's had already been called up. But we got to travel together, which was nice. We were in Scranton, which is the Yankees AAA at the time. And so we got called up after the doubleheader, like I said, late at night, and then we had to get up early the next morning. We had a car service from Scranton to Buffalo. We had to get a COVID test, a rapid COVID test, before we could go across the border. We were in Toronto. The big league team was in Toronto, so we were meeting them there. So we got a COVID test. at the field in Buffalo, and then took another car service across the border, drove up to Toronto, and got there at like probably 2:30 to 3, just like right in time for BP and drawing program and all that stuff to get ready for the game. So I was sitting in a car for several hours, so I had some time to reach back out to a lot of people, which was actually nice. So that was good.
Yeah, I'm sure that, you know, it's overwhelming to even want to look at your DMs or look at your call log at that moment, which is a great thing, you know, but
Yeah.
it's probably also a testament to, like you said before, the sacrifice that you put in. Was there that feeling that like the more time that went on, there was like more anxiety about, was the sacrifice gonna lead me to this moment?
Yeah, you mean like prior to being called
Yeah,
up?
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I would be lying if I said that I didn't think about it. You know, I was 26 years old, and I've
Yeah.
been chasing this down for as long as I can remember, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm still in the minor leagues, and I
Yeah.
am not financially well off. And
Yep.
this is it all worth it? You know, it runs through there, but
Mhm.
like I said, I do get tunnel vision in general when the season starts anyway. I'm just ready to pitch and compete, especially coming off last year where there's really no minor league season. So not being able to play for a full year for all these minor leaguers, like everybody was like ready to play this year, and then we got delayed again. So like
Yeah.
coming out of spring training, all the minor leagues were bumped back to May. So it's been a long time for a lot of people. So I respect everybody's like ferocity whenever the season started. I could tell that it was like, you know, we're ready to play. So, and I was the same way. I was super excited to play, and we had a great year in AAA. So it was super fun this year, just being able to get back out there and then being with such a good group of players and guys in general. The clubhouse is awesome. So I was super thankful for that.
Yeah, you guys had another strange season in AAA, even with the season, splitting time and being in Trenton and being all over the place. Describe what that was like.
Well, yeah, it was a complete waiting game
Mm-hmm.
in spring training itself, actually, that turned into like the alternate site while we were waiting for AAA to actually start. So we had like, as soon as the big league team left and their season started, we, like the rest of the guys, like hung around and we were just waiting for the season to start. So we were just like inter squatting and doing like pretty much normal spring train stuff just for an extra month. And then we finally got word that it was going to be like May 4th. We're going to play. And then we're like, okay, where are we going to play? Because the big league team is going to play in Buffalo where we were supposed to play. So we find out it's in Trenton, New Jersey, which is the Yankees old AA.
Yep.
Which, you know, it wasn't ideal. We'd rather have been in Buffalo, but we made the most of it. And I got there in May, and then we weren't sure if we were going to, I mean, we just assumed we were probably going to play there the whole year because we weren't sure if the big league team was going to be able to go to Canada and actually play in Toronto. So that was a pleasant surprise in itself towards the end of the season when the team got to go to Toronto. And then, I mean, they had redone everything almost at the Buffalo field, like lights, the clubhouse, everything was like up to big league standards pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So we found out we were getting to go there. We were really excited, and we were also in a playoff push of our own. So we were pumped, and we got to, like I said, the big league team got to go to Toronto. We got to play in Buffalo for the last little bit, so that was awesome too. And then we're just moving all over the place this year, basically just trying to make the most of it.
It's the stuff behind the scenes that I'm sure that nobody really can grasp. And like you said before,
Just
just
a hotel room,
yeah,
the whole season.
yeah. I mean, you don't even have a kitchen. I mean,
Yeah.
the amount of times you're eating out, the amount of times that you're, you know, eating packaged stuff or really not your routine or not around the gym that you want to be around or playing catch in weird spots. I mean, none of it really can measure up to reality, you know, for a lot of people outside of it. And I'm sure you have umpteen stories to tell about that. And some of the stuff we talked about before, just kind of your trip between, I think maybe, what was it? You were in Pawtucket or you were in Portland. You kind of had that crazy
Yeah.
day.
Yep.
And you got a save or came into a game on the same day.
Yep.
I mean, it's just like scratching and clawing to make it happen. And that was Toronto season and that was Buffalo season. I mean, I'm a Cubs fan, but I probably followed Toronto more than any team this year, just because keeping track of how you're doing. And it's crazy, you know, and that's a whole other interview in itself that I would even want to do with Buffalo's staff to get their field up to par. I'm like, I'm sure they were like, what in the world are we going to do? We got to do this, 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 and this, and this in this amount of
Exactly.
time. It's
Exactly.
like crazy.
Mhm.
Absolutely crazy. All right. So you get called up and you waited a couple games until you got that first appearance. Waking up each day, not knowing if it was going to be your debut, going to the ballpark, going to the Rogers Center. What was that feeling like? What was it like to be a BP at the Rogers Center, be playing there?
It's pretty cool. I think if you like probably had a video of me first walking out there during BP and just like looking around and just soaking it in, it'd probably be pretty funny. I was probably like stuck stuck where I was for a few minutes, but it was awesome. Really, I think it was nice having like two of my really, I mean, actually three of my really good friends that I've been playing with like the whole season, basically, that had gotten called up just before me. I could kind of follow them around and just in case, make sure I was in the right place at the right time. So I didn't have to worry about too much of that. It was just, really just soaking it all in. And then like, yeah, you want to pitch. But I mean, you have to realize like you're the young guy and they're in a playoff push. So like, just be ready to pitch whenever. So that's just kind of the attitude I took with it. And then, it was a few days, which was fine. I that was probably perfect, honestly. I warmed up so I got there on a Wednesday. I warmed up we had an off day on Thursday, and I warmed up on Friday, and we ended up coming all the way back and taking the lead. So Romano ended up going in, and then so I ended up pitching on Sunday. So I had the full 4 or 5 days to kind of get ready and be in the right headspace, at least for getting in there. So it kind of worked out. It worked out perfectly.
Yeah, I remember that wild game. I was we had a volleyball tournament here on that Friday, so we were playing Virginia Tech, and I was watching the Blue Jays game from press table over here. I was like, you might get in, and then you guys came storming back and had a crazy win against them. And Sunday was a little bit calmer, and you got that appearance late in the game. So you're warming up in the bullpen on September 5th, about to go in. Heart rate, was it faster than normal?
Honestly, it helped warming up the 2 nights prior because I threw so many pitches and like was making sure I was ready, and then the inning just kept going on and on and on. So like, I mean, I'm not kidding. I was probably throwing for like 40 minutes and then ended up obviously not even pitching. So I was like, okay, I'm probably going to be sore because I threw so many pitches. So I got to be ready for tomorrow. But like just having that at least warm up session where at least I thought I was going into the game was enough. Like for the next time around on Sunday, I was like, I'm just going to take it easy, make sure I'm loose, and I'm not going to throw a million pitches again. So I'll be ready. I'll be ready to go. That was honestly, I wasn't that bad on Sunday. I was ready to go.
Sure. So you get that opportunity, you go out there. Was there anything different about, a lot of people in basketball, they talk about when they play those games in like Lucas Oil Stadium, and like the backdrop for the shooter, they kind of feel like, or they play at Ford Field and like for NCAAs, and it's kind of harder for them to adjust. Is there any type of that feeling when you're out there in a big league stadium?
I think just in general, yes. Like not even just big leagues, but like there's certain fields where you feel like you're like right on top of the plate, or you feel like it's like a million yards away. Honestly, that day I didn't really even notice because it was like just so much happening. I guess it felt pretty normal in terms of the backdrop and like actually all that stuff. It was more so just telling myself that it's still a baseball game. I truly think I blacked out running from the bullpen to the mound. Just it was insane. But once I got out there and threw a couple warm up pitches, I like took a breath and was like, okay, this is the same game that I've been playing like my whole life. So let's just try to throw some strikes.
Yeah, because I watching games on TV, and the difference between like a broadcast, let's say for MLB versus minor leagues, somebody hits a home run and they're going to have that wireless camera following the guy, and they'll follow him right up till he crosses home plate so they can get that shot. And that's something you'll see at the big league level, but you won't see at the other level. Like
Right.
little things like that, I'm sure kind of they'll try to creep into your mind when you get to the big league level and be like, wow, this is a big deal. So many eyes are on me. Dan Schulman's calling my game. What
Yeah.
is going on? It's like, where I was always curious, like that would make my heart race. So,
Yeah.
props to
No,
you.
I
Yeah.
I realized that firsthand when it was like the first night I was active was like that Wednesday. I guess it was the first, September 1st. And like me and two of my buddies in the bullpen were like sitting up on the bench on like over the fence that you could see. And like I guess the broadcast was was zoomed in on me and Nate because we just been called up and they were talking about us. And like I get all these snaps from like my
Watching the
friends,
game.
like you're on TV, like don't pick your nose or do anything like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm used to AAA where nobody is looking down at the bullpen and I'm just hanging out with my buds. And so I was like, oh, that's like you said, it is a lot different, a lot more eyes on you. But as soon as I realized that, I was like, okay, this is a little bit different, but it's a good time either way. So
yeah, no, for sure. Had a successful inning out of strikeout against Josh Harrison, a guy that's I've watched for years.
been around.
He's been around Pirates. Leaving the mound after getting your name in a box score. What was that like knowing you got through an inning?
Relieving for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, it was especially after that whole week where I was warmed up, almost got in, didn't get in. Actually kind of crazy. My parents were supposed to be there for that Friday night game and they got caught in traffic. They flew into Buffalo, had to get tested and like drive to Toronto. They got caught in traffic, didn't even make it to the game. So I would have debuted and they wouldn't have been there. So it actually worked out perfectly, kind of crazy. So they were like listening on the radio on that Friday night in the rental car. And they're like Bryan Baker's warming up to come in the game for the ninth, whatever. We were down like 5 before that crazy inning. And they were like, no way, we're going to miss it. Like, no. And then come all the way back. I don't pitch. So they're there on the Sunday game when I do pitch. So that was just another aspect of it where I was like my parents made it. I preserved the shutout. We were still in 8-0 at the time. And I'm like, okay, I pitched a big league game. Like I'm very relieved at this point, very happy. And then like just shaking the manager's hand and him saying, good job, you're done. It's pretty awesome. Just kind of honestly just sat in the dugout for a second by myself and just kind of soaked it all in. It was surreal. It was surreal.
So did you take anything from that game? Did you, any type of memento, box score, baseball, piece of dirt, I don't know, from that game? Yeah.
The above, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got my jerseys. The box, they got the lineup card. And my first strikeout ball is somewhere. I'm not sure where, but we have it saved somewhere. So yeah, we got a little of everything.
Awesome. So right now you're back grinding in the off season, and that was your only appearance. What's kind of the mindset you're in trying to get back there right now, and what does that look like in the off season?
So, well, really the last 3 weeks, I guess it's been 3 weeks since our last game, maybe a little more, but yeah, just resetting. Like we've been talking about, it's just an absolutely crazy year, mentally, emotionally, physically, just resetting these last few weeks. And then, just got back down in South Florida where I'm working out, where I've been working out the last few off seasons. Just kind of getting back to it. I'm already very sore from my first day of lifting, but just trying to get back to being healthy. And I want to come into spring training in February, healthy this time, and hopefully not have any setbacks to make my year come off to a slower start like it did. But yeah, just making sure I'm healthy, making sure I'm strong and ready to go for February, and kind of take what I did this year and build on it in terms of really just throwing strikes and attacking the hitter with 3 pitches, like I was saying, and just trying to be a guy that the big league team can trust to close out games. So that's really the main goal.
Are there any pieces of advice that you picked up from people at the big league level, or just kind of things that you observed from players, whether it was, you know, Bichette or somebody on the offensive side, or Robbie Ray, or anything, on the team, or any kind of nuance that you picked up?
Well, the big leagues, like you said, there's cameras everywhere, and there's a lot more attention to detail with everything. So I think it was in terms of the pitching side, it kind of depends on the style of pitcher you are. Like with me, I'm pretty much an adrenaline junkie, and I'm just like going to go right at the hitter no matter what. Other guys like game plan more, and like you have all these heat maps, and I mean, there's more stuff than you couldn't even know what to do with. So, I mean, and somebody told me, like, right when I got up there, like, if you're not like super interested in all that, you don't want to know exactly what to throw, Giancarlo Stanton on a 2-0 count, or like whatever, there's something for everything. I'm personally not super into that stuff. I want to stick to my game plan, and it's nice to know certain things, like, he's really good in this area, or he swings on the first pitch this percentage of the time. But I think that was an important piece of advice, was, stick to being you, but like, don't overuse, like, don't get out of your own routine in terms of what has made you successful. And that goes with anything, honestly. I see so many people, completely changing up something that they've been doing that has been working. So just stick with it, honestly. And that's honestly the biggest thing that I learned up there is, it's the same game. Like, just keep doing you, and you obviously did something right to get there in the first place. So keep doing it, and you can learn from there.
Are there any guys that you like to watch in particular? And any people that you like, on the team or in the bigs, that you kind of like, all right, this is crazy. I'm pitching at the same level.
Well, Romano is pretty awesome to see. We're actually very similar in terms of like the way we approach the game, but Max Scherzer has always been probably my favorite. Just love watching him compete. And then just hitting wise, I think Marcus Semien this year, like, just like when I was up there watching him hit, I'm like, I don't know how I would get him out. Like, he was hitting everything. I mean, Vlad, you could say that about half of our lineup, honestly. Vladdy was obviously crazy too, but just that for that stretch I was up there, Semien was like not swinging at any bad pitches and like smashing the ones that were in the zone. So he'd stuck out to me as well. Super fun to watch.
Yeah, he can go anywhere with the ball, and he's just a really balanced hitter. And I mean, that lineup, like you said, is just, just the names on that lineup too. When you got the pedigree of the people on that team, like, Biggio, Bichette, and Vlad, like the names right there, the guys that we grew up watching, like their sons. It's very interesting. Cool. And like you said, Romano is he gets amped there. That is for sure. He gets amped. He's not afraid to pitch it at the letters and see what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So cycling back, when you're at UNF, now that's kind of come full circle a little bit more. When you're at UNF, did you think that call up would come? Was there ever a point when you were pitching at UNF was like, I can make the big leagues?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was absolutely huge to like pitch at UNF and be able to face really good Division I hitters. I think, like, just jumping from high school, I think you're definitely not ready for professional hitters coming straight from high school. I don't care what high school you play for. It's just not the same. So just adding that step in there to where you really learn a lot about yourself and like what you need to do to get hitters out. So yeah, I definitely struggled a little bit at UNF, and then kind of found kind of found my footing a little bit halfway through my sophomore year, and then gained some confidence and kind of took that with me for sure. I mean, it was a completely different type of setting because I was starting, but pitching is pitching. So I think a lot of that is still really valuable. But yeah, I mean, you could say my freshman year at UNF, I was like, okay, what did I get myself into? I'm not doing well at all. Like, what the heck is going on? But yeah, just the whole learning process there was crucial, honestly, in my career. So yeah, super thankful for my time there.
Anybody in particular that you talked to from your time at UNF right after getting called up or after the debut?
Yeah, pretty much everybody in one way or another. I think I'm actually pretty close with Tyler DuPont, and we live kind of close to each other now, at least in the off season down in South Florida. So he's always got something motivating and
he's an interesting
hilarious
guy.
Yeah. Hilarious to say. So he sticks out. But yeah, a lot of guys reached out from those teams, and it's pretty cool to hear from everybody. I know, like, I obviously have a bunch of fans just from them, keeping track, and I got Ryan Roberson reaching out and always reminding me that he could take me yard at any time. So that's all. He keeps me humble. So that's pretty awesome.
That sounds super on brand for him, right? Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Super on brand. I think he did hit a few home runs at the home run derby last weekend, though. So I don't know. They weren't off you, but yeah. I think there might have been off Tommy Boss instead. Yeah. Anything else from that experience, Bryan, that you just want to put out there, share that I didn't really ask about, or any weird details even?
No, yeah, I think I hit on pretty much everything. I think the whole parents, I guess it worked out perfectly. The parents not being there for the first time I was warming up and somehow all working out was, I couldn't have made that up. That was incredible. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Well, first Osprey in 18 years to get called up. I know for you, you're like, the job is not even started. I want to get, hundreds of innings in the bigs. So I hope that happens. But really cool, obviously, to see it happen this year. So yeah, and great to catch up and do round 2.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bryan.